Morning. Raf.
Now, in 1994, the body of a man was discovered by police in the sea off the German coast. Now, despite their best efforts, they have never been able to identify him. So the charity Locate International have picked up the case and are asking for your help in their investigation. And I'm joined now by co-founder and ex-officer Dave Grimstead. Thank you for joining us, Dave. Now, Locate International normally look for missing persons, but this is unique because you don't actually know the identity of this individual. How did you become involved?
And this is unique. We've got a murder investigation without the name of the person. And we were contacted by the original detective in the case who started on this case back in 1994, who recognised that through the international cold case project that we're working on, that with the strong connections to the UK, there might be the chance to solve this case.
Well, let's hope so. So how did the officers initially try and identify him?
So back in 1994, we were in the early days of DNA. So they managed to obtain mitochondrial DNA. They used that to eliminate against the database of missing persons. But crucially now, they've got a full DNA profile that we're able to utilise to try and find out who this person is. But so far, there's been no trace on any international databases. So now it's about appealing to the public. And there's some really unusual things about this case, particularly with his height and his clothing.
So what's different about his height?
So he's 6'5".
OK.
That puts him in the top 1%, 99 percentile of
So that
height.
in itself is quite distinctive, isn't it? And you say about his clothing, we're going to have a look at some of that now. Talk me through the clothing and what's significant about it.
What's significant about the clothing, and it's really interesting when you look at the church's loafers that are there. These are expensive shoes. So these are in the region of about £300 upwards.
Wow.
When they're bought new. But what was interesting about these shoes is they're repaired as well. So they're made in Northampton. We know they came from the UK, and we know that they had what wasn't a great repair to them. So we've got expensive shoes with a repair that wasn't that great, and an ITS Jubilee stylised heel replacement.
OK, that's interesting about the shoes. And just next to it, we can see a tie there. What have you learnt from that?
And the tie was really interesting. When we first looked at it, you had the diagonal pattern. It looked like a regimental type of tie. But when we looked and analysed the labels in this case, it was from Marks and Spencer's. And we know that from the coding on the labels that we're looking for our man that was found in the North Sea to have been in the UK, certainly in the early 1990s, judging by the dates and the analysis of the labels.
Definitely. And next to it, we can see an image there. Tell me about that, because it looks very, very clear.
Yeah, so the technology and the expertise for facial reconstruction has moved on since 1994. So we were able to work with experts at the University of Dundee to get a new facial reconstruction, to get this as close as we can to, and the images that you can see there, and what we think North Sea man looked like. And
extraordinary level of detail there on the picture on the right. It really is. So how do you think this person may have ended up in the stretch of water?
We know that our man from the North Sea had a violent blow to the head and to the ribs. He was weighted down by two iron cobbler's feet that we think originated. They were stamped with AJK from Kingswood. They were tied to his belt. And we think, looking at where he was found, that this is one of the busiest waterways in the approach to Hamburg, that maybe he came from a ship 10, maybe more days before that.
OK, well, we know you're treating it as a murder investigation right now. We're asking you to cast your minds back. And, Michelle, you've got some tips how we may be able to do just that.
Yeah, absolutely. In the hope to get information which could identify this man, Locate International are working alongside Professor Fiona Gabbett from Goldsmiths University, who created a memory jog. And Fiona joins us now. Fiona, really good to have you with us. So first of all, just explain exactly what a memory jog is and how it works.
Yeah, so memory jogging's a clever and effective way to mentally take someone back to a time and a place with the goal of helping them remember something or someone that they've previously forgotten. And in this case, obviously, we're trying to jog people's memory for whether they might have known the gentleman many years ago. So my students and I have been working alongside Dave and his team at Locate International for the past year, pulling together key information we have about the gentleman, as well as key events that took place around that time that we believe he was murdered. And from this, we came up with two ways that we believe can help jog people's memory. So the first is to focus on distinctive information about the man himself, as Dave mentioned, his height and his expensive shoes. And the second is to focus on key events that happened around that period of time, such as big news stories or popular songs from the early 1990s. And by focusing on these key features, we can help people remember back to a particular time that in turn will help them remember where they were at the time and crucially who they might have known at that time.
So, as you said, focusing on key events is something that could really help. And with this case, it's looking at 1993 and 1994. We can see some of the events from 1993 that might help jog someone's memory. Pablo Escobar was killed. There were the first new images from the Hubble telescope. And in 1994, we can have a look at them as well. The IRA bombings, of course, at Heathrow. 4 weddings and a funeral was released. So it's really going back, thinking of what was there at the time. And hopefully, Fiona, that'll activate people's memories.
Yep, that's exactly right. So we're asking members of the public who can remember back to the early 1990s to spend some time thinking about these key events and popular films and songs that happened at the end of 93 and the first 6 months of 94, because activating memories from a particular period of time can help you remember more information about what you personally were doing at that time. So please take a couple of minutes to think about these events and then use them to jog your memory, to think about where you were and also who you knew at that time. Does anyone remember someone who matches the description of the gentleman? And if you're too young to remember the 1990s, then maybe you can ask your parents or your grandparents to try this task. And hopefully someone will find the man that we're looking for.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fiona, thanks very much again for being with us. So do you have any clues as to who this man might be? Do you recognise this face or the expensive shoes or the tie? If you have any information to share, the contact details are on your screens now.